Hello and welcome back to the channel. Just a quick intro before we get started. This is the start of a new educational commentary video series. The main difference between this channel and what the other channels will be doing is that we're going to take things a lot slower. We're going to slow things right down, and the focus will be on helping new players or players looking to get a bit more serious about the game effectively get better at the game. So the replays are going to take roughly an hour long for each match, in-depth analysis aimed at helping people understand each of the archetypes, understand each of the new archetypes, understand some of the more intricate rulings that might not be immediately obvious for people who perhaps haven't played as much Yu-Gi-Oh as other people. Anyway, the first replay we've got is an absolute, I don't want to spoil it, to be honest. I don't want to spoil what happens, but let's just say if you're interested in playing Blitzclique or you want to know how to play against Blitzclique, this is the replay for you. So the first replay we have here is N3sh on Blitzclique, and we've got Dosc01, we'll call him Dosc, on Branded ROLAD. Now, I imagine a lot of people are probably quite familiar at this point with the ROLAD deck, with Branded, of course. But for people who aren't, the Branded deck can bridge into ROLAD using a level 8 synchro. It uses that to search Griffo, and that's how the two engines bridge together. The ROLAD deck, if you're playing it pure, is a very low to the ground, recursive, grindy deck. Branded, of course, being a very grindy, recursive deck, so there is good synergy there. On the other hand, we have N3sh with a Branded Blitzclique. Now, Blitzclique is an archetype a lot of people will be less familiar with. The short version is that the Blitzclique monsters want to special summon themselves from the hand, and then when they do, you are locked into special summoning only from the hand for the rest of the turn. All of the Blitzclique monsters have a gimmick. If they see a card get destroyed by card effects while it's on the field, while the monster is on the field, not the card that was destroyed, you basically get to summon something. You get to search for something. You get to do something, effectively. So you want to get your Blitzclique monsters onto the field. You want to destroy things with card effects while they're on the field. That generates follow-up. The spells have got a similar gimmick. Instead, the way the spells work is that the spells and traps, when they're in the graveyard, if they see something get destroyed by a Blitzclique card effect specifically, and that's the difference, they can add themselves back to hand. So the Blitzclique engine can be quite recursive and quite grindy as well. The Branded synergy is because Fallen and the Virtuous can destroy things in order to trigger the Blitzclique monsters so that they can see something get destroyed while they're on the field, but Fallen and the Virtuous can do that whilst replacing itself. So you're not going neg in order to pop something, if that makes sense. So that's why the Branded engine is quite popular with Blitzclique. Anyway, N3sh is going first. Let's see what he does. So Dusk hits him with the good luck. Does it resolve? It does not. So N3sh normal summons Dogmatic Ecclesia. Now if you look, he's already got 2 copies of Fallen and the Virtuous in hand. He won't be playing another target. Dosk doesn't know that though. So he's normal summoning Dogmatic Ecclesia, attempting to search a 3rd copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous. This is basically N3sh checking for Ash, because N3sh needs this to resolve. He needs Hideout in the Sky to resolve if he's going to play the game. So he throws out the Dogmatic Ecclesia, fishing for an Ash Blossom. Now Dosk doesn't have one. If Dosk did have an Ash Blossom in this scenario, if he throws it out on the Dogmatic Ecclesia, then he probably loses the game on the spot. Let's face it. And I think that's something for newer players to understand. If you're going second in this scenario, you don't necessarily have to just throw your Ash Blossom, your Imperm, your Veiler, whatever it is, at the first thing they do. What you have to think is, do they have a card in hand? Do they have a play in hand that's more threatening than the one they've just made? Now at the minute, N3sh has got 4 of the cards in hand. You have to imagine he's got something more dangerous than a Dogmatic or Ecclesia that's more worthy of your Ash Blossom. Dusk doesn't have an Ash Blossom, of course, so it resolves. So it resolves, we get the Fallen and the Virtuous. N3sh is now fairly confident. There's no Ash Blossom. And he's now a bit more confident that his field spell will resolve, basically. So what the field spell does is it gives your opponent a token, and then you get to search for a Blitzclique monster, which will almost always be Surge if you don't yet have it. If your opponent activates the field spell and they add something that isn't Surge, you can somewhat reliably assume they opened Surge. So there it is. Uses the field spell, gives his opponent a token, searches for the Surge. Now Surge can target a monster on the field, destroy it, and special summon itself. And it is in that order, so watch this now. The Surge will target the token, and that's why the field spell gives them a token. Special summons itself. Surge didn't see the token get destroyed, if that makes sense. So Surge can't actually trigger its effect at the minute. And so this is why the Blitzclique deck is more of a deck of 2-card combos, 3-card combos, because the field spell alone is a dead end, basically, unless you have another way to trigger the Surge and give yourself follow-up. So we're going to activate the Breakaway, which can do two things. Bounce one of your Blitzclique monsters to hand, and then pop a card. Or it can place one of your continuous traps, one of your spells, face up. So places the trap. It's worth noting as well, this isn't a Blitzclique spell. So this, the Breakaway, can't place this. Because if you read it, place one Blitzclique continuous trap. Oh yeah, so it's continuous trap specifically, not spell. But it's the same end result. You can't place this. Because it's not actually a Blitzclique card. So places the trap face up. Activates Fallen and the Virtuous, targeting the field spell, which is no longer of any kind of use. And what that will do is triggers the Surge. Now, if we look in the graveyard, N3sh sent Titanic Lad. That should be Dosc's first clue that he opened another copy of Fallen and the Virtuous. He didn't send an Albion. He sent a Titanic Lad. So this is Dosc's first clue that there's another Fallen and the Virtuous to play around. It resolves. N3sh is just thinking. Because Surge is triggered here. This is what he's thinking on. Which monster do I add? Because like I said, when they see something get destroyed, they get to do something. So Surge saw something get destroyed. He can add a Blitzclique monster, and he's just thinking on which monster to add. And he adds a copy of Whisker. So Whisker is the kind of boss monster of the deck. During turn, a card was destroyed by a Blitzclique card effect. So it has to be destroyed by a Blitzclique card effect specifically. Quick effect. Reveal it in your hand, special summon up to 3 Thunder monsters from your hand. Then you can destroy up to that many cards on the field. Non-targeting. The whole targeting versus non-targeted has become infinitely more relevant since the ROLAD deck became popularized. You do need to know what targets and what doesn't. When it's on the field, monster effect is activated except in the hand. Quick effect, return one other Thunder monster you control to the hand, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. So he adds the Whisker to the hand, activates the effect of the Whisker to special summon itself, destroying the Dogmatic Ecclesia, because what this will do now is trigger the spells and traps in the graveyard. Now if we look, it was Chainlink 1, Breakaway, Chainlink 2, Hideout in the Sky. Why? We haven't checked for Ghost Spell yet, so N3sh is chain blocking the Breakaway by having its Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Hideout in the Sky. So now if they want to Ghost Spell, they can only Ghost Spell the effect of the field spell. The field spell doesn't actually really do anything during the turn. It's attack and defense modification, which is, yeah, it's a thing, but it's mainly a thing when you're trying to swing for game during your own turn. Having the Breakaway back in rotation for your opponent's turn is much more important. So it's Chainlink 1, Breakaway, Chainlink 2, Hideout in the Sky to play around Ghost Spell. Even this late into his turn, N3sh is still thinking about hand traps because he knows this was the first window for his opponent to hit him with a Ghost Spell. Now he doesn't have one, but N3sh doesn't know he didn't have one. So he's thinking about his plays, he's playing correctly and building those good habits. So Hideout in the Sky, Chainlink 2, Breakaway, Chainlink 1. So, yeah, this is the board. Doesn't look like much. But just let's see how he plays it out. We've got 2 copies of Fallen and the Virtuous. It is a once per turn, but if one of them gets destroyed, there's the other. We have the Blitzclique Breakaway, which, like we talked about, can return a Thunder monster you control to the hand, then target a card and destroy it, or place a Blitzclique continuous trap from your deck face up on the field. So, end phase, Titanic Lad triggers, and he uses that to add a Fallen of the White Dragon to his hand for follow-up. Now, we mentioned earlier, sending Titaniclad should have been Dosc's first clue that there's another copy of Fallen and the Virtuous in rotation, in play. Titaniclad added Fallen of the White Dragon to hand for follow-up. This is Dosc's second clue, and it's a pretty big clue that there's another copy of Fallen and the Virtuous in play. I don't know who this Dosc chap is, if it's a username of a pseudonym for a very accomplished player or anything like that. But the fact that Dosc is playing against N3sh suggests it's probably quite highly rated, right? Let's face it. I would wager Dosc knows at this point there is another copy of Fallen and the Virtuous in play. So if you're against any kind of branded deck or any kind of package, just pay attention to what they're sending. Because in this scenario, if you're going second into this, you would be pretty confident there's a face down FNB there. So passes over to Dosc. What's his plan? So he special summons the Yugioh, tributes itself as cost. N3sh is just thinking, yep, it resolves. Special summoning Fallen of the White. Trigger effect, it resolves. Special summoning back the Yugioh. Yep, both players are happy. And we're going to synchro into the Crimson King. This is the bridge from Branded into the ROLAD deck. Because what this does is it adds a copy of Crimson Call. Now there's a little bit of a mini game here, a little bit of a mind game. I think once people become more familiar with this bridge, this will start to become more of a thing. But the way Crimson Call works is that you can add a level 4 or lower Fiend monster from your graveyard to your hand, which is rubbish if you're not playing a kind of Red Dragon Archfiend build specifically. Or if you control Red Dragon Archfiend or a synchro monster that mentions it, and this does, you can add it from your deck instead. So at the minute, Crimson Call is live, and we can add a Griffo from our deck to our hand. If this gets removed, Crimson Call is no longer live. This needs to be on field. But there's another layer to it, because you can quick effect, banish this card you control, special summon one Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck. So if they try to interact with this in a way that targets, they can basically dodge the targeting, go into the Red Dragon Archfiend, and so your Crimson Call is still live. I highly doubt Dosc is playing the Red Dragon Archfiend, but depending on the build you're against, it's just something to be mindful of. There's a universe in which N3sh tries to hit this with Fallen and the Virtuous, and it just tags out into a Red Dragon Archfiend. That universe isn't today, though. Spoiler alert. So, resolves, both players are happy, activates the Crimson Call, grabs a copy of the Griffo, declares the effects. We get the Mind Shuffle, activates the Mind Shuffle. Now, my feeling is Dosc knew about the Fallen and the Virtuous. I think he's too highly rated to have not known there was a second F&V in play. So he sends the Rinbrum as cost, targeting the Mind Shuffle, and then Dosc responds by trying to activate Chaos Magical Hats. Now I say trying to because this is not a legal activation. So I think this was his plan, basically. I think once he saw that he had Chaos Magical Hats, he thought it's fine. I'll use this to beat Fallen and the Virtuous. Everything's good. Except when your opponent... Yeah, so he's realised straight away. So when your opponent activates a monster effect or a normal spell or trap card. So Fallen and the Virtuous is a quick play. Obviously, this doesn't work. Not only that, there's another angle. You have to choose 3 spells or traps with different names from your deck, and 1 monster in your main monster zone that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual. So even if this was a normal spell, you still wouldn't be able to activate Chaos Magical Hats, because you haven't got a monster in your main monster zone that mentions Light and Darkness Ritual. I'm going to be honest, I don't love this card. It's a cool effect, but yeah, it's so awkward. It's so awkward and so specific. I think if I was going first, I'd rather just side a Solemn Judgment than this, in all honesty. Anyway, yeah, so he's realised he can't. Mind Shuffle gets destroyed. Now, because Surge has just seen something get destroyed, gets to search. So we've got the trigger effect of Surge. We've got Chain Link 2 for Dralis Harmonia. N3sh is just thinking. Chain Link 3, Blitzclique Alternator to bounce the Surge back to deck. There's cost. Okay, yep. Any response? No response. Chain Link 4, the Alternator. So the Alternator is bouncing back the Blitzclique, which can target and pop the Crimson King. Yep, pop it. So Chain Link 3 will resolve, that's the alternator. So we add the Crackle, which is a quick effect, special summon and pop if your opponent activates a monster effect on the field. The Surge resolves, getting a copy of Emmy. And now we're just showing our targets for Fedralis Harmonia. This was actually resolved in the wrong order, but it didn't actually matter. It didn't change anything. So, this is an important thing to consider. The chain is just resolved, there's triggers. N3sh has got things he wants to do in this moment, but he's reminding Dosc, you are chaining on. Because if you're in a real game, what can happen in these situations is the chain resolves, and then the player who's not turn player starts trying to activate things, right? They get a bit excited, but that's not how it works. The chain resolves. There's triggers. Because Dosc is the turn player, his triggers have to be declared first. So he's asking, triggers, Dosc, nothing to pop, nor to trigger. That's not actually true. The Cloud Beast Malong can target a card. Doesn't have to be a monster. Return it to the hand. Choosing not to activate it. So now N3sh has got a trigger, and that's the Emmy. And that's if this card is added to your hand, except by drawing it. So this is basically Blitzclique Poplar. Reveal this card, target a card on the field, destroy it, and if you do, special summon it on the monster. And they've all got that same restriction, by the way, of you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn, except from the hand. So, Emmy effect, targets the Fedralis, special summon, and pop and special summon, and that is important. The order is very important. Now, because a Blitzclique card effect destroyed something, the breakaway comes back. So you start to see how kind of recursive and grindy the deck is. So we get Celtic Mystic, normal summon. That was a misclick. Normal summons. Declares the effect, and in response, the Crackle comes down. So during your opponent's turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, quick effect, reveal, destroy, special summon. So the Celtic Mystic is destroyed as Chain Link 2, but we will still get the resolution of the effect to draw 3 and discard 2. The reason N3sh has done this is because at the minute he feels like Dosc doesn't have a way into any of his ritual plays. So by getting rid of the Celtic Mystic, it stops the second effect, which is tribute this card, special summon 1 ritual monster that mentions Light and Darkness ritual from your hand. So even though he's going to get to draw, if he draws into a ritual monster, he can't use Celtic Mystic to then special summon that monster. So that's why N3sh is interrupting this play. It doesn't negate it, but he's hoping to cut him off from getting a Blast monster onto the field. So we draw the 3, there it is, drawn into the Blackluster Soldier, which can't be summoned using the Celtic Mystic, but he does already have Light and Darkness ritual in hand, which N3sh of course didn't know. So gets rid of the Chaos Magical Hats, who could blame him, gets rid of the Mind Shuffle that he's drawn, because Mind Shuffle in your hand doesn't do anything for you during your turn. Quick note on this, it's one of the only quote-unquote bricks in the game, or garnets in the game, where the idea is, I really don't want to see this in my opening hand, so because of that I'm going to put extra copies in my deck. It's weird, it goes against the normal logic of deck building, but your engine just doesn't work properly. If this is in your hand, you need a copy in your deck for your engine to work properly, so that's why you play 2, and you just have to hope you don't both. Basically, don't hard open both, because if you do, it's miserable. The deck has quite a lot of garnets, to be honest, but it's it's a very fun deck. Anyway, we digress. So we have the Emmy, which adds a copy of the alternator, because Emmy saw something get destroyed, and you can add a Blitzclique trap from your deck to your hand. So N3sh's hand looking kind of stacked at the minute. Dosc doesn't really have anything on the board. Anything on res is asking, nothing on res. Triple Tactics Talent to draw 2, because at the minute he's down bad, and this is basically one of those, let's put it on God, draw 2, and hope for the best. And as it turns out, he draws quite nicely. So Dosc is just looking at the graveyard now, and N3sh is looking at Dosc's graveyard, just assessing the situation. Starts with Light and Darkness Ritual, banishing Griffo as the entire cost, special summoning the BLS, and we target and banish the trap. Anything on res, gives him the thumb, everything's fine. Super Poly, Now, there's a nice interaction with Super Poly and Skull Archfiend of Chaos because we get value if this is sent to the graveyard, don't we? So Super Poly sending Skull Archfiend as cost is particularly nice. And that is a weakness of the Blitzclique deck, by the way, because they're all Earth Thunders, so they are particularly vulnerable to a Super Poly play to make a Garura. And it gets worse because we'll get to draw, of course, when this goes to the graveyard, so that is a consideration for the Blitzclique deck. Skull Archfiend of Chaos triggers, sends Light and Darkness Ritual, adding a copy of the Black Chaos. Special summons the Black Chaos by shuffling the other Black Chaos into the deck. Skull Archfiend of Chaos will trigger. Well, he'll activate it in the graveyard, looking for things to shuffle back and special summon itself, trying to put lethal damage onto the board. The Malong, the Rindbrum, the Light and Darkness Ritual, and the Super Poly. Was that 4 cards? So special summons the Skull Archfiend of Chaos, and now we have lethal damage on the board. End of main. Anything? Nope, N3sh is good. Moves to battle phase. Declares an attack with Skull Archfiend of Chaos for 2500. So he's just explaining there that it lagged, basically. So Skull Archfiend of Chaos declared the attack. N3sh needs the opportunity to respond, doesn't he? Because he does have a play he can make. So Skull Archfiend of Chaos, yeah. Archfiend first. N3sh is thinking. So in response, declares the effect of Whisker Blitzclique, which can special summon itself, popping the Garura. The effect of Garura will draw, and it's another Super Poly. That's brutal, by the way, because now N3sh has to play into a Super Poly if he survives the turn. Now it's important to pay attention to what just happened here. Skull Archfiend declared an attack. Whisker was summoned to the field. This triggers what's called a replay. What that means is that Skull Archfiend declares an attack, the number of monsters on the field changes, triggering what's called a replay in Yugioh, and now Dosc has the option, will Skull Archfiend still continue his attack? Will he still continue to attack? If he doesn't, he can't then attack later. He's still considered having used his attack. You know, it's declared an attack, and it can only declare one attack in the battle phase. So he declares an attack, replay is triggered. Would you still like to attack? No, because this is 3000. Now Skull Archfiend has used his attack for the turn. So he's just asking, how do you modify attack? You can't, you just have to do the life points yourself. So now, Blackluster Soldier attacks, can't be destroyed by battle. So it then gets a 1500 boost and can attack again. So it just attacks for 4500 directly. The Black Chaos attacks for 3000, and we're on 500 life points. The only reason N3sh is still alive, the only reason this game isn't already over, is because Dosc didn't understand the replay rule to the same extent that N3sh did. That was genuinely the difference. He's got 500 life points left. The way in which Dosc sequenced his attacks, starting with Skull Archfiend of Chaos, is literally the reason that N3sh is still alive and on 500 life points. If he instead starts by declaring his attack with BLS, then the duel's over already. So that's a really, really important detail. This tiny, tiny little thing. Oh, well, I'll attack with Skull Archfiend first. Seems irrelevant, seems small. But it completely changes the face of the game, because now N3sh is still alive on 500 life points, when he instead should be dead, right? Although, to be fair, the Whisker could have maybe popped something else to keep him in the game, but it's the point of trying to make it here is that those small moments, those small little understandings of the rules can literally be the difference, right? Because N3sh is still alive now on 500 life points, rather than just being dead. So we've got a Super Poly in play. So he's just trying to click on the attack points. So he's asking if he did the Light and Darkness ritual add back yet. Never mind, I think it did. I don't know if he did, actually. Don't recall. Anyway, he's just looking at his graveyard, thinking of a bit of a plan. So he sets the Super Poly. We're going to get the incredible Ecclesia to add back because the fusion was sent to the graveyard. So now we've got the cost for Super Poly. And we pass to our opponent. So it's N3sh's turn now. He's on 500 life points. What's the play? Activate Pot of Sloth. This might be the first time I've seen it resolved, to be honest. Shuffles back cards. Might need to get the card, not going to lie. Yeah, it's pretty good. What's interesting is that that's a main deck Pot of Sloth, because this is game 1. Because the way it works is that with the field spell, you can give them a token. So if you open Pot of Sloth going first and you have access to the field spell, Pot of Sloth can at least replace itself, so it becomes an upstart goblin if you open it going first in conjunction with the field spell. So not a lot of decks can main deck this. Just an interesting little detail there. So we've managed to skull power hand a little bit, but N3sh is on 500 life points. He has to get this perfect. So we have Fallen of the White sending Ecclesia. Thumbs up. Trigger effect. Getting an Ecclesia. Dosc is just thinking there. Yeah, he's happy. We activate in Graveyard the effect of Ecclesia to shuffle back the face down, which he chains. So pays the cost, and he's saying both of yours. So what he's doing is using his own Skull Archery of Chaos, the Fallen of the White Dragon, and the Ecclesia to super poly into a dragon that devours the Dogma, because that's a Fallen of Albaz plus 1 light or dark monster plus 1 effect monster. So in the right moments, this can be a particularly devastating super poly target. So now declares the effect, saying just Dogma. Very sportsmanlike of him. So the Skull Archery of Chaos just went to the graveyard. So we can actually activate both, of course. In a real game, if you don't declare Skull Archery of Chaos there, and you start resolving the effect of Dragon that devours the Dogma, particularly in a tournament setting, people aren't going to say to you, what about Skull Archery of Chaos? They will just let you start resolving Dragon that devours the Dogma, and then it'll be, well, you didn't activate its trigger effect. It's too late. So that was actually some nice sportsmanship from N3sh. Oof, you are a good man. Yeah, there it is. N3sh didn't need to do that. In a tournament setting, nobody will do that for you, I promise. Forgot about Archfiend, just Dogma. So he doesn't actually want to activate the Skull Archery of Chaos. But N3sh didn't know that, so fair play. Good on him. So it's a chain link 1 Dogma. N3sh is thinking. Both scoping out each other's graveyards. Yeah, thinking. So he responds with Federalist Harmonia. It's chain link 2. So he's just revealing the Synchros. Sending the Enigmaster Pack bit to the graveyard. Putting everything else back in. In Dueling Book, there's no way to kind of reveal. You have to banish them and then put them back in. So declares the effect of Enigmaster Pack bit as a trigger, thinking on shuffle back. So Dogma. Shuffling back the Pack bit. Shuffling back the Ecclesia. And the field spell comes down. So because he shuffled that back, it can't trigger, just in case anybody missed that. It was Chainlink 2 for Drawless Harmonium. So that dumps the Enigmaster Pack bit. Chainlink 1 will resolve Dragon that Devours the Dogma. And Enigmaster Pack bit hasn't triggered yet, because it will trigger on a new chain, of course. So we activate the field spell, which is okay. Gives them the token. And like I said earlier, if we don't have Surge, we're going to search Surge, almost always, how that works. Uses the effect of Breakaway to set the alternator face up. Effective search to target and pop the Blackluster Soldier. Sad face, yeah. So this will trigger the breakaway, bringing it back for follow-up. The effect of Alternator, shuffling back the breakaway to search for a grain. So reveal it in your hand, target a spell or trap, targets his own field spell, which will trigger the search to get a copy of the Whisker. Effect of Whisker, summoning itself to destroy the token. Now, because we've had something be destroyed by a Blitzclique card specifically, the spells and traps will come back. This will also trigger the Grain, which can add a Blitzclique spell, or Hideout in the Sky, because it does actually name the Hideout in the Sky. So Hideout in the Sky comes back. You get the breakaway. Activate the field spell again. End of main. So we move into the battle phase. This has 3500 attack. Now, the field spell will give them an extra 500, and the trap, they will lose 300 attack defense for each Thunder monster you control. The Dogma is unaffected by the trap though, so it's 3500 into 3k with the Whisker. But sorry, it's both 3500 of course, because this also gets the boost. So it's 35 into 35. I don't think Dosc quite understood at first that they were both equal, would destroy each other because of the boost from the field spell. Just flashes a bit of leg there, teasing the Fallen and the Virtuous. So for Drawless Harmonia into the Black Chaos, both 3000. Yep, valid. Actually, with this though, this is only unaffected by activated effects. So I do believe the Blitzclique Alternator should have actually lowered the attack and defense of the Black Chaos there, because monsters your opponent controls lose 300 attack defense for each Thunder monster you control. Not an activated effect, so I do believe actually the Drawless Harmonia should have been able to beat over the Black Chaos there. So attacks for the 1700. Yep. Attacks for 1800. Sorry, for 2300 because of the boost. Moves into main 2. I didn't think you can out them, to be honest. He definitely thought he was safe there, didn't he? Scoping out each other's graveyards, looking at the extra decks, just thinking, making a bit of a plan. Activates the Dear Servant. So because in Blitzclique, once you've special summoned from the hand, you can't special summon from the extra deck anyway. Nadir Servant does synergize quite well because the restriction this places on you doesn't actually matter in the Blitzclique deck. So very popular card in the Branded Blitzclique variant. So sends the Rinbram, adds to hand the Ecclesia, Dogmatica Ecclesia. We've got a Fallen and the Virtuous face down, we've got a Breakaway face down, Alternator in rotation, and we end our turn. So N3sh is on 500, don't forget. So during the end phase, this comes back to hand, of course. We've also got the effect of a dragon that devours the Dogma. Now, if you don't know, the way end phase triggers work is that it's not chain link 1, chain link 2, chain link 3. You resolve end phase triggers one at a time. So you end phase trigger, plays you the Virtuous to come back to hand, and then end phase trigger, dragon that devours the Dogma. So they resolve one at a time. So it gets a copy of Fallen and the Virtuous. And we move into the draw phase. So Ragged Backorder Rites is a starter, as long as we have the required materials in our deck. We've also got quite a bit of follow-up here. So we've got the School Life into Chaos, we've got the Light and Darkness Ritual. We don't have a Griffo, but that doesn't really matter because we've got cards like Crimson King that we can banish for graveyard as cost. So let's see how this gets played out. Thinking on Prio in the draw phase. Yep, you're good. Asking him if he's got anything there. And he does. So he activates the Fallen and the Virtuous to steal the Dogma. Now what's interesting about this is N3sh can steal his Dogma, because if we look at N3sh's graveyard, there's an Ecclesia monster. Dosc doesn't have an Ecclesia monster in the graveyard. If he would have left his Ecclesia monster in the graveyard, then he would be able to respond to Fallen the Virtuous with his own to special summon the Dogma, which would be a tower, and basically finish off the duel. But instead he went for the advantage of getting the Ecclesia back to hand. So now the second effect of Fallen and the Virtuous isn't live. So N3sh steals the Dogma. There's not really much here that Dosc can do in response. Activates the effect to shuffle back some of Dosc's follow-up. This really was an absolute ankle-breaking play. So yeah, gives him the thumb. We move into main. So it's just saying, you know, that they're not banished; they get shuffled into the deck. Yeah, there we go. Shuffles those back into the deck, and that matters. That absolutely matters. Main one fine. Ragged Record of Rights. Adding the Black Chaos. Technically, you're supposed to reveal the ritual, but it's just been shuffled into the deck. N3sh knows it's there. He's the one who shuffled it in there. So we special summon the Ecclesia. We special summon the Black Chaos, shuffling back the Blackluster Soldier, thinking on summon. Now what's important is that we don't have a ritual spell in our graveyard, so our Black Chaos isn't a tower. Yep, activates the breakaway. We're going to bounce back to hand, target and pop the Black Chaos, which isn't unaffected. Surge just saw something get destroyed. Gets the Whisker, which will be live because Blitzclique breakaway just destroyed something. That's a Blitzclique card. So now we can special summon and pop 2 using our Whisker, as well as get the negate. Activates the effect of Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous, tagging itself out for a copy of Fallen of the White Dragon. Special summons the Ecclesia back. N3sh is just thinking on this. Think here. Activate Alternator to shuffle this back. Adding to hand Crackle. So now we can special summon and pop 3. Crackle also being a quick effect, destroy and special summon in response to a monster effect being activated on the field. So there's layers there, if that makes sense. Special summon and destroy, and then in a separate chain later down the line, special summon and destroy. Just having a look at the graveyard. N3sh is thinking. Yeah, he's saying nothing on res. Activates Fallen and the Virtuous, and yeah, he knows it's over. From 500 life points to bring it back, and I think the two main plays to kind of pay attention to here is you had the replay scenario in which N3sh's understanding of the replay rules allowed him to cling on to deal life with 500 life points, and he ended up coming back and winning. And then the other thing to think about is that N3sh read the situation with the Dogma because the Ecclesia had been removed from the graveyard, and N3sh knew he had Fallen and the Virtuous. So because the Ecclesia had been removed from the graveyard, that means N3sh could use his own Fallen and the Virtuous to steal the Dogma without giving Dosc the chance to respond, because in that same scenario, if Dosc would have left his Ecclesia in graveyard, then N3sh can't steal his Dogma. And let's just think about this. Ecclesia remains in the graveyard, and we've got the Fallen and the Virtuous. So because N3sh knows in that moment, so let's just assume N3sh plays absolutely correctly in that moment. Dosc, with his Ecclesia in graveyard, knows he can now spell speed to revive his Dogma. He's not going to do that knowing N3sh as Chainlink 2 could respond with his own FNV to special summon the Dogma. Let's assume N3sh, knowing Dosc can respond with his own spell speed 2, he doesn't activate the Fallen and the Virtuous to special summon the Dogma. It was only the Dogma being special summoned that shuffled back Dosc's follow-up. So without the Dogma being special summoned, there's a Skull Archfiend in play, there's the Ritual spell in play, and this is an entirely different duel. So that whole little moment there, that whole little interaction with adding back Ecclesia during his end phase, it didn't seem like much at time. It didn't seem like much in the moment. Well, of course I'm going to add back Ecclesia. Why would I not want a card in my hand at the end phase? If he would have left this in the graveyard, he wins the duel. But instead he added it back to hand, and then that was enough of a window for N3sh to steal the Dogma, shuffle back the follow-up. Very well played, to be honest. Very, very well played. Let's move on to game 2. So we're in game 2. Both players are side in. Well played, by the way. It was a good comeback. It genuinely was a good comeback. You could say he put on a Blitzclique. I might have to edit that out. That was terrible. I'm genuinely so sorry. We're moving into game 2. N3sh is going to be going second this time. We've opened up evenly matched, which already is just pain because this deck doesn't really play around evenly matched. The Azamina variant does. I think the Azamina variant is far better than the branded variant. Different video though. So we've got Dosc going first now, main one fine. We've got no Charmies, main one is fine. So we activate the Griffo. Response, we're good. Mind Shuffle, sending the Skull Archfiend into Chaos after adding it to hand. Triggers to dump the Ritual, adding the Ritual. Triggers in Graveyard. No, we're just doing things a little bit differently, maybe a misclick. So we normal the Ecclesia, tags out for the Albaz brings back the Ecclesia, all standard stuff. Goes into the 3 Brave Sword Souls, which if you don't know this card, this enables some absolute vile plays. So generic Synchro 8, you can add 1 level 4 or 8 spellcaster monster whose attack equals its own defense from your deck or graveyard to your hand. There's a card, if you don't know it, called Pharaonic Advent, which is searchable with this. And yeah, it's all kinds of nasty, to be honest. Let's see what he's using this for. So he's using it for the new Pharaoh. You can reveal this in your hand and a spell trap in your hand. And then basically your opponent until the end of the next turn can't respond to that spell or trap. So what they do is they get the 3 champions of the Sword Soul, they search Pharaoh, and they set things up so that Mind Shuffle cannot be responded to for the rest of your own turn and for all of their first turn. So we F&B our own Mind Shuffle, sending Albion. So remember, in the first game, we didn't send an Albion, did we? We sent the Titanic Lad, which was the clue that maybe they opened up multiple copies of Fallen the Virtuous. He sent the Albion, though, which lets us know he's just planning to recycle the Fallen and the Virtuous. And now, this is why you took back the Fallen and the Virtuous, the Ritual spell activation earlier. Now he activates the Ritual spell, adding back the Mind Shuffle, so we can use Pharaoh to reveal itself, and the Mind Shuffle means N3sh now cannot respond to Mind Shuffle. So we banish the Griffo, we special summon the Black Chaos, adding back the Light and Darkness Ritual. Normal Celtic Mystic, we're drawing 3, discarding 2. We get a Solemn Warning, this is really good for drawing into your side deck. So he's drawn into his side deck. When a monster would be summoned, or when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, that includes an effect that special summons. So, good going first card there. Sets the Mind Shuffle, can't be responded to, even in N3sh's turn, can't respond to this. Sets the Solemn Warning. End of main, we call it a day. Albion triggers. And we get to set a Fallen and the Virtuous. Now I do feel quite sorry for Dosc in this moment because he doesn't know that N3sh has an evenly matched. N3sh doesn't know though that this is a Solemn Warning. For all N3sh knows, this is a Solemn Accusation. So he doesn't know that his evenly match will respond. So in draw phase, Mind Shuffle can't be responded to. Dumps the Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Triggers the Skull Archfiend of Chaos. Never mind, can't activate Skull. Yep. This was a misplay on Dosc's part, because what I would be doing, bearing in mind this can't be responded to, save it till later in the turn, add something to hand, because you've already got the BLS. So, like, what we searching for here? Like, what's the play? What I would be doing is wait till later in your turn, activate Mind Shuffle to add something, maybe the Griffo, so you can set up a Chaos Magical Hat play if you want to, and then send Farah to the graveyard, because when Farah's sent to the graveyard, so if it's sent from the hand or field to the graveyard by a spell or trap effect not cost, special summon this card, and then take control of one of your opponent's monsters with the highest attack. So if you just wait a little bit, activate Mind Shuffle when he's got a monster on the board, can't respond, Farah will be sent to the graveyard, it will trigger, special summon itself, steal one of his monsters. So by activating Mind Shuffle now, he's achieved literally nothing. Like, what's it done for him? But what he could have done instead is activated this slightly later and got himself a negate as well as a snatch steal. So yeah, look, maybe Dosc was rattled from the absolute miraculous comeback in that first game. I ain't blaming the guy. I'd be rattled. I won't be able to think straight after having somebody on 500 life points and then still somehow losing from that scenario. So can't be mad at it. Just something to think about in this scenario. If you just have a bit more patience, you can add an additional 2 interactions to your end board. Main one. So we start with Dear Servant, which, like we mentioned, fantastic synergy because the restriction doesn't matter. So we send Cloud Beast Malong to add Fallen of the White. Oh, that's evil. Absolutely evil. And so Malong, targeting the Mind Shuffle because it's any card. It's not just any monster, it's any card. The Black Chaos means it can't be destroyed. The Black Chaos means it can't be banished. But it doesn't say it can't be bounced. So this is actually quite crippling for Dosc. Now it's worth pointing out in this moment, N3sh could have opened with Evenly Matched, but if he does, Dosc survives another turn, doesn't he? The fact N3sh hasn't started with Evenly Matched makes you think to yourself, N3sh thinks he can OTK him, right? A lot of players, let's face it, I include myself in this, a lot of players, they would have seen this scenario, they would have thrown out Evenly Matched, hoped for the best. We've all been there. But N3sh smells blood. N3sh is looking at his hand, which includes Evenly Matched, and he's like, no, I don't need this. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him this turn. So we activate the effect of Ecclesia, special summon him, trigger to get a copy of Fallen and the Virtuous. This time he's not got 3 in his hand. Activates F&V, targeting the Magician of Black Chaos. We activate Emmy, Solemn Warning in response. Activate the effect of Fallen in hand, because obviously Emmy was the bait, right? Effects to get the Ecclesia. We're going to activate the Graveyard effect of the Black Dragon, shuffling itself and a fusion monster. So F&V, targeting the Ecclesia, because this is what was targeted to be shuffled back, so may as well activate it now. Small little detail, this was a smart play by Dosc. Not the fact that he chained it, that bit's obvious. What was smart is that if you look at the monsters that were on field, one of them was a tuner. So with the 3 monsters here, one of them was a tuner, the other 2 were not. He had to activate it, but he targeted the tuner specifically, because if he would have destroyed either of these 2, and you can see why there might be a bit of temptation to target the Elbaz, right? You've got to get rid of Elbaz, he's a scary monster. But instead, he targets the tuner, cutting him off from a synchro play, which he wouldn't have been able to make anyway because of the Dear Servant, right? But it is just a little moments like this sometimes can absolutely matter. Let's assume he wasn't under the Dear Servant. That exact same scenario, he'd been forced into chaining it. He's getting rid of the tuner, leaving him with 2 monsters on board, which can't make a synchro play. So, yeah, cute little detail there. Wasn't relevant because of the Dear Servant, but again, it's about good habits. So, Fallen and the Virtuous, we have the... Oh, so he's just thinking on res. Yeah. Place the Breakaway. So he's going to place the Alternator face up in his spell and trap zone. All good. Shuffling back the whisker to get the green. You can reveal it in your hand to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Dosc's just thinking. There's not much to think about, to be honest. His board's been pretty much torn apart, so uses green, targeting his own trap, so we can special summon it. This is going to trigger the breakaway to add back to hand, trigger the... so he adds the breakaway back to hand. There's another effect of the alternator though. Banish it from your graveyard to add a Blitzclique spell or Hideout in the Sky, because Hideout in the Sky is not a Blitzclique spell. I do feel like that was just... It was just a bit stupid. Like, just let the field spell be a Blitzclique spell. Like, why not? It just puts this... It just makes the deck so much worse than it needed to be. I genuinely think if Hideout in the Sky was a Blitzclique spell, that alone wouldn't make the deck stupidly broken or anything like that, but it would... Yeah, I'm not really sure what they were thinking with that one. So now we get the field spell. We're going to activate the field spell, give their opponent a token. This time he searches the Whisker, because the Whisker is of course alive now. Now, he would have searched Search if he had a way to search the Search, special summon the Search, pop in something in the process, and then trigger an additional destruction effect while Surge is on the board, and use Surge to search Whisker. But he doesn't have a way to trigger the effect of Surge while it's on the field, so that's why he's gone directly for Whisker instead. End of main. This is a quick effect, so he doesn't need to do this now, right? He doesn't need to reveal his intention because they end of main and basically let Dosc think that this is everything he's got to attack with. I think he probably understands that there's a Whisker and the Whisker will come down, but it's a fairly new archetype and not everybody's the most familiar with it yet. So he attacks into the token. The token has 2k attack. Yep, there we go. Adds himself the life points back, good to remember. We've got 2k into 1400. Now the Whisker comes down, which is 3-5. Grain will trigger because it just saw something get destroyed by a Blitzclique card effect. Adding the breakaway to hand. Attacks for 1700. Taking him exactly to the threshold, give or take 100, to the 3500 body to finish things off. Activates Rinbrum, but then there we go. I lost a duel because of this effect recently, because I forgot that you can negate a monster effect. Any monster effect apart from something that happens in the hand. So tries to activate Rinbrum to save himself, but the Whisker can just negate that, bounce him back, and it has to be another, right? It can't bounce back itself. Bounces back one other Thunder Monster, negate, GG, GG. Absolutely fantastic game there. I think from both sides of the coin. N3sh going first, setting up the advantage train. Really good comeback in that first game to still win that match. And then going second, we saw the power of Blitzclique and its ability to pick apart a board and push for lethal. A reminder, he opened evenly matched. And he didn't activate it. The mental fortitude required to open evenly matched to go in second into a deck that you know can't combo into a way to negate it. And rather than activating the evenly matched, N3sh looked at that board and said, no, I can win. I'm just going to OTK him. So if you're interested in playing Blitzclique, I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen a better example of how to play Blitzclique than this just yet. Fantastic showing there from N3sh. Yeah, good game to both, I guess. If you enjoyed this replay, if you enjoyed what I'm trying to do here, do me a tiny little favour. I want you to comment in the comment section, if you're still here, what's one thing you learned from this replay? It will just help me test who's watching, who's paying attention, who's getting something from this as well. In my head, there's a lot of people who want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a lot of people with an interest in Yu-Gi-Oh! But they find it quite off-putting. It's a very difficult game to learn, but there's not loads of content out there aimed at those people. All the content out there seems to assume that in the year of our Lord 2026, everybody is already an elite level Yu-Gi-Oh player. Nobody's trying to get into the game, but that's not my experience. A lot of people, I think, would get into the game if there was still content out there trying to make it a bit more accessible. That's me, by the way. Hello. So if you're still here and you're still listening, thank you, by the way. Appreciate you. Drop me in the comment section what's one thing you've learned. And if I can get, I don't know, 10 comments, 10 people commenting 10 different things that they've learned, I'll call it a win and I'll be happy. 10 people have learned something. The video was worth it. Anyway, if you want to see more content like this, let me know. Drop me a like, drop me a subscribe if you haven't already. Genuinely appreciate it, and it does massively help me out. Anyway, less yapping for now. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.